What up YouTube, this is your boy Zee Gawd and it is time for another album review. And today we're talking about Drake and PARTYNEXTDOOR's long-awaited album, Some Sexy Songs for You. Ride with me. Ride with me. Alright, so after all the drama that Drake's been caught up in this year, rap beef, accusations, personal betrayals, Drake finally decides to respond to all of the chaos. And his response ended up being an album dedicated to women and to all his true loyal fans out there. Drake and PND has a chemistry that's undeniable. Every single time that they link up, it's a hit. These two can't really miss. So for this project, it was bound to happen sooner or later. And not only did it make sense creatively, from a business standpoint, this was a very smart and calculated chess move from Drake. Ride with me. Ride with me. Alright, so let's talk about my favorite tracks on this one. Alright, so my favorite tracks on this album would be Spider-Man, Superman, Give Me a Hug, Raining in Houston, and Nokia. Alright, I can't even lie, I find myself singing the hook to this track more than I like to admit. Then the Doing It Wrong sample towards the end of the track was just icing on the cake. With Doing It Wrong being one of Drake's best songs on Take Care, that album being one of his best albums known today, that little portion of that track makes this song flawless. For Give Me a Hug, this one was the one where Drake got to pop his shit. This track feels like his response to everything that's been happening since the initial Kendrick diss. And I really love how if you really pay attention to the subject matter of each track, you will see how Give Me a Hug fits into the 3-track sequencing of Pimmy's Dilemma, Brian Steele, and Give Me a Hug. And then we have Raining in Houston. This one just feels like that real quiet storm R&B. The production is smooth, and then that transition to the second half of the track was perfect. And then for Nokia, I think this was just easily one of the catchiest songs on the album. That retro 80s pop vibe is insane. And Elle can absolutely body the hook of this one. Baby girl. And overall, it's just a fun track. It's one that you can put on repeat constantly. Ride with me. Alright, let's talk about the overall positives of the album. One, I will say the production is immaculate. 40, Earl on the beat, and the rest of the producers on this album delivered across the board. No complaints here whatsoever. It was bona fide, flawless production to me. I also love the minimal but well-placed features. Since this was a Drake and PND album, keeping the guest appearances limited made sense. And for the artists who did show up on the album, like Pimmy and Chino Pacas, gave the album an extra dynamic layer. This is the exact thing I wanted 2 Chainz and Larry June to do on Life is Beautiful. It's a layer, another layer of creativity to add to it. And then also another positive for this album is it stays on theme. Whether it's R&B, pop, or even Latin influences, the album blends different sounds while keeping a overall cohesive vibe. Ride with me. Alright, let's talk about the negatives of the album. One of the negatives of the album is it may be a little too long. If I would have constructed the album could have been a little tighter. But at the same time, it also gives fans plenty to sit with until Drake and PND link up again, which, let's be real, might be on Drake's next solo project. Another negative I feel about this album is I feel like Drake somewhat overshadowed PND on this one. PND was definitely present on this album, but I think because he's strictly a singer, whereas Drake has both elements of singing and rapping, it felt like Drake naturally took the lead, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Alright, so my overall final grade for this album is a B-. Overall, Triple S For You was exactly what fans expected it to be, maybe even better. Pretty much Drake and PND did what they do best throughout the entire album. If the album was a little shorter and PND had more of a spotlight, I might have pushed it into the A-, A+ category. But as it stands, just as it is, it's a more than solid project. So I mean, honestly, I've really enjoyed this album. This was fun to listen to. Plenty of tracks that I've got on my playlist that, you know, I spin back constantly. Nokia is a hit. Yeah, man, I have little to no complaints on this one. So let me know what you think in the comments. Favorite tracks, skips, anything that pretty much stood out to you on this album. And then lastly guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you can. A small channel, trying to grow, trying to get bigger. If you enjoyed this album review, I appreciate you stopping by. This is what we do here. I do hip hop for the most part, but we're thinking about expanding a little bit. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys checking this one out. I am on to the next one. Peace.